you don't have the surge that you do on the mainland. The water tends to move around an island rather quickly. It's not where it was like, say, Opal on the Gulf Coast around Destin, where we're from, where you have water thrashing around for a while and a lot of flood damage. We don't have that, so we've been fortunate in that aspect.
Charles, is your house holding up all right?
Yeah, we're fine. There's been shingles that have been blowing. I tell you, we've got a lot of fruit trees here. There's a lot of nice tropical fruits blowing through the air. We've got some window damage, and that's basically it. It's just high winds to this point. The boat damage, the boats in this area, it's hard to assess exactly what's happened, but there are a lot of reports of boats that have pulled anchor and are dragging and either going aground or running into other boats.
Well, if you can hang on there a couple more hours, Charles, I think you'll see the winds finally begin to diminish.
I can promise you we're waiting for that.
All right, thanks a lot, Charles. We appreciate you taking time out to tell us what the conditions are like there in the Abacos Islands, and that was in Guana Key. Well, John, what a hurricane this one has been. You were mentioning earlier it's a very large hurricane.
It is a very large hurricane, Janetta. The gale force winds, or tropical storm force winds, are now extending out about 260 miles from the center. That's much larger than a lot of hurricanes we've seen. Contrast that to Andrew, which is a very violent hurricane in South Florida in 1992, but it was a very small hurricane. This is very large in comparison.
Taking a look at the satellite vantage point, can you describe to us what's been happening over the past few hours?
This again is our infrared picture where we colorize the tops, and where you see the brighter colors, that's where the highest tops are, and that generally coincides with where the heaviest rain and so on is. And what we're showing here encircled is where the core of the hurricane is. You can't quite see the eye too well on this particular picture. We have a visible picture, though, that we can show you. We'll take you back to early this morning, and we can see the center just a little bit better. And we chose a picture that has the latitude and longitude lines on. This is the 75th meridian here, running north and south. And you can see from early in the morning down in here to about up here at the present time. So you've had a movement generally off in this direction. So this has been more north than it has west. And that's in contrast to yesterday when it was moving more west than north.
Okay. We'll keep a very close watch on that. Now, when do you expect the next advisory, John?
We'll have another advisory at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and we are watching that very carefully to see if possibly some of these warnings can be discontinued for Florida. If this trend becomes firmly enough established so that the Hurricane Center is very confident it's going to continue that, then very likely they will be able to discontinue some of the warnings along the Florida coast. Along the Florida coast only, certainly not the ones farther north. Wow. They'll stay in effect.
Okay, well, stay tuned. We'll keep you posted on all of the watches and warnings and the forecast track. Right now we go back to the
Matt Crowther, our senior forecaster here at the Weather Channel. We're in the Forecast Center updating you on the very latest on Hurricane Bertha. And Matt, we have some brand new coordinates for folks out there.
That's right. We just got the new advisory from the National Hurricane Center, and things are going along just about as we figured. But good news is that the wind has come down a little bit.
That's very good news. Let's show you the very latest here. And looks like it slowed down a slight bit as well.
That's right. We have it at the edge of the screen right here, and it is going to be moving northward, up north-northwestward. That's still the track. And you'll notice, as I mentioned, that we have a 100 miles per hour now, which is 5 miles an hour less than we had before. And we don't have that on the graphic, but the pressure is still at about 970 millibars off the last reconnaissance fix.
Okay, we're going to take a live shot. We're going to take a look actually at what it's like just off the coast of Georgia.
Oh, they're up, by the way.
And we're going to talk to Bill Keneally, who's there on Sea Island. Bill, tell us a little bit about the current conditions there.
Okay, right now we're in pretty good shape here, Sharon. The new advisory, I'm sure, is bringing a little more elation to these folks. Hopefully, by tomorrow morning, we can prepare to sound the all clear here. Surf is not that bad here. It's running about 3 to 4 feet at this hour. High tide is going to be about 5:30 tomorrow morning. Earlier high tide late this prior afternoon did come up fairly close. I can see some debris within about 15 feet of me. They tell me that is quite a bit higher than it's been. And the folks here at the Cloister, we have to thank them for being so gracious. But a lot of the folks are still here, and here at Sea Island, there's really not that much concern right now.
Bill, what are your plans for tomorrow? Are you going to move a little bit further up the coast, do you think?
Well, I feel like a Civil War general. We're going to try to outflank the hurricane if possible. So we're going to head north tonight. We're going to bed down in Savannah and then probably do a few shots from Tybee Island, that area. Then head northbound during the daytime and probably park ourselves somewhere up into North Carolina, maybe somewhere between Wrightsville Beach and the Morehead City area.
Okay, well, Bill, be safe. Thanks for your update this evening.
Okay.
And our next shot, we're actually going to be talking next with Jeff Morrow, who happens to be vacationing in the Outer Banks. Talk about being in the right place, maybe at the wrong time. He happens to be vacationing there and could be dealing with a hurricane, perhaps as early as Friday morning?
That's right. The official track, the new one from the Hurricane Center, brings the center just a little bit west. Of course, you know that there is some error built into that. It could move in different directions, but right now the official track is going to be very close to that area, so I hope he gets into a safe place.
Okay, let's talk a little bit to Jeff here. And Jeff, can you tell us the feeling that folks had there on the Outer Banks? You're actually in Buxton, North Carolina. Can you tell us a little bit about what folks were doing today?
Well, folks, today, Sharon, we're busy evacuating this barrier island chain all the way from Ocracoke right up through Hatteras Island and even on up toward the Nags Head area. Usually, I mean, every summer day is just packed with people, this being the vacation and the holiday season and all. But with mandatory evacuations, those folks didn't waste any time getting off the islands. They had already heard about Bertha as it moved through the Caribbean and what had happened there, and then moved up past the Bahamas. So they were well aware of what was going on, and that's generally speaking true out here on the Outer Banks. Folks are very weather savvy, I'd have to say, and they keep a very, very close watch on anything that could affect them because they've been hit by so many storms in the past. And I think that pretty much rubbed off on the people that were visiting here. They saw that the locals were taking it seriously, and I think they took it pretty seriously as well.
So Highway 12 probably a little crowded.
Oh, it was packed today. I was working with a cameraman that shot some of the pictures that you were showing a little bit earlier this evening, and he said on the way down here from Nags Head, coming down onto Hatteras Island, that the backup was 20 miles trying to get off the island. Fortunately, the local emergency management did start the evacuation today, so that just about all of the vacationers are off the island now, and I think that anybody that's left a straggler, so to speak, like maybe myself, wouldn't have quite as hard a time getting off the island now.
Probably the only thing you're really seeing there at this point in time is maybe a difference in the tides, is that right?
Yeah, the tides are starting to be higher. That was very evident today as we were out and about. The high tide, I believe, was a little bit early this afternoon. And the surf really coming up as well. I was talking to some surfers that had just come out, and they said some of the bigger wave sets were somewhere in the 6 to 8, maybe even 9 foot range. They were pretty big, and that's really washing up on the beach pretty much. No beach erosion yet, but as the hurricane gets closer, I'm afraid that will probably change.
Have you decided what you're going to do yet, Jeff?
Yeah, I will probably be moving off the island sometime during the day tomorrow. Maybe reporting back to you guys sometime during the day tomorrow as the hurricane gets closer.
Okay, Jeff Morrow live from Buxton or on the Outer Banks in North Carolina. Let's talk a little bit about those warnings now. We'll get those up for you. And you can tell us a little bit about what's going on with that, Matt.
Okay. Well, we don't have this frame updated yet. What's happening is actually this part of the frame is still correct. The warnings are still in effect for the Bahamas, but they will be discontinued in about an hour. Just as a precaution, the Hurricane Center kept the warnings up from Sebastian Inlet all the way up to the Georgia border, but they said there's a good likelihood that those will be dropped later on tonight or early tomorrow morning. And the most important thing is that we also now have a new hurricane watch, which is off the screen here, up here, from the Virginia border all the way up to the southern Chesapeake Bay, up to Chincoteague. That's a hurricane watch that just went into effect.
Okay, meaning conditions there could be favorable for hurricanes maybe in 36 hours or so.
That's right. It looks like sometime during the day Friday they might start to feel some conditions if the current track holds.
Okay, real quick, let's go to the satellite picture and show us here what's going on with Bertha.
Okay, as we mentioned before, we do have some drier air in this area, so that's the reason that the pressure has gone up just a little bit, but we do still see some bright enhanced clouds, meaning the high cloud tops, so we're not totally out of the woods yet as far as strengthening goes, because the Gulf Stream is about in this position, and if the hurricane continues to move up in here, it could get into some slightly warmer water. So even though we've seen a slight decreasing trend right now, that doesn't mean that the hurricane might not strengthen a little bit. We have to really watch it closely.
Okay, but it has changed its course. It's moving more northerly now.
from about 12 hours ago, but we haven't really seen a change in course in about the last 6 hours. We do expect it to curve just a little bit more to the north and eventually northeast, but things can change.
Okay, thanks, Matt. We'll be back, of course, at the bottom of the hour. Yes, indeed, the bottom of the hour with the very latest on Bertha. In the meantime, Janine is standing by in the studio. She's going to tell you about some active weather in the middle of
Severe weather coverage from the Weather Channel.